Welcome back to a best-of-3 series of professional StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a Terran versus Zerg, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on Data C. Now apparently our Terran player, he's already sent out 2 SCVs right here at the very start of the game. This is going to be one of the new maps that will soon be added to the StarCraft 2 ladder, and tournaments are already running the new map pool as well, which is going to be very exciting. I haven't seen a single game yet on this map, but so far, I gotta say, looks very pretty, right? Initial impressions, looks very, very pretty. I already had a look at the layout. Things seem to be quite alright on this one as well. Anyways, in the top right-hand corner of this map, we have an absolute channel favorite from South Korea. We are looking at ByuN's main command center. And the opponent, well, would you look at that? The cracks right there and the creep are actually very beautiful. Don't think I've ever seen that texture before. Anyways, with the red Zerg drones, likewise also an absolute channel favorite. From Canada, we're looking at Scarlett's main hatchery. Now, okay, I was gonna say, I did see a couple SCVs leaving the main base. It looks like ByuN has found a rather dirty location right over here for some proxy racks. It looks to me that only the top section right here as well as the left side are gonna be attackable. So those SCVs are, yeah, gonna have a grand old time just building up those structures over here. And as long as they're not scooting on over to the left or the top, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of problems right here, or there's not going to be a whole lot of issues here for ByuN to finish up those structures. That being said, Scarlett did find it quite early. She is harassing it, so at the very least, the second barracks will be delayed. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of trouble, to be honest. I mean, it's going to be a couple of SCVs and a couple of drones, but... alright. Yeah. I mean, one of them ended up going down. Oh, actually, Scarlett quickly popping that drone right there into an extractor. Interesting. Alrighty. So this map, it's called Data C. We've got 8 Zerglings, by the way, coming up, and I don't think there's really going to be that much production. Although, after the first couple of Marines, apparently ByuN now decides to go into Reapers, which is kind of cool, because normally against this sort of opener, you actually do delay, when you know it's a bunch of Marines, you do delay the gas geysers, so this does mean that Scarlett won't really have a Zergling speed follow-up here anytime soon. So those couple of Reapers are going to have a grand old time. I think that ByuN now saw those Lings also leaving the bases, so he's a little bit indecisive right there. I can imagine for these players as well, this is going to be the very first time, or, well, one of the very first times that they're playing on these maps. So it'll probably be a bit until they get the hang of it too. Oh, nice round right here. ByuN, uncharacteristically, not paying attention. Normally, ByuN is very on point when it comes to that micro, but obviously he only had like a tenth of a second right there to respond. Anyways, this best-of-3 series, all the games are going to be played on the new maps. I've seen a few games when they were part of like the Team Liquid map contest back in the day, but I haven't actually seen any tournament games that have recently been played. So, I guess whenever you see a game on some of the new maps, you'll also know that the games are very fresh, very... Oh, hello. Very recent. Okay. So this map is made by a map creator called Killer Smile. Not someone I'm actually familiar with. So the description says the following. Main and natural are exposed to air harass, but the initial 4 bases are easy to secure with a winding path to the opponent through the low ground that can be shortened by destroying rocks. On the sides, there are watchtowers above a rich gas base that help against proxy tactics, but don't cover too much of the map. Alright, so I think the main reason why the air-to-air travel distance is quite short is just because of the fact that the maps, or the main bases rather, aren't actually located in the corner. So normally we see, I guess, this is like the main base, right? And then this would be the main base right here on the opposite end of the map. That does mean that getting to the other side is going to be quite a bit easier if you do want to go for some mutalisks or medevac drops or something along those lines. This map did quite well in the Team Liquid map contest. It didn't win, however. I don't even think it made it into the top 5, but I think the main reason for that is not because it's like a... You know, it's not because it's not a good map. It's mostly because it doesn't really feature anything crazy or anything super fancy. It all seems relatively straightforward. But I gotta say, the graphics on this map look really pretty. Yeah, so historically, StarCraft 2 maps were always quite dark. To the point where, at some point, I played games, right? There was this one map called Acolyte LE, and I complained about this in previous casts too. That is... quite a while ago. This was, I think, at the beginning of Legacy of the Void. But that map was so dark that especially in like Zerg versus Zergs, I could barely see my units, and the only way to properly... Ooh, Wow, superhero death right over there for that Reaper. The only way I could properly play on that map was by pushing all my graphics down to the very lowest. And I don't really like playing on the lowest graphics settings just because, well, I mean, even though it's good for your frame rate and your visibility, it's just kind of ugly, right? Especially if you're like making content or streaming or whatever, it's just not the best idea. Anyways, I didn't like that map because it was so dark. And then progressively over the last, I want to say 5 years, maps have gotten brighter and brighter and brighter. This one definitely is taking the brightness level down a notch though, right? But I guess with the very bright background, it's actually still pretty... Well, I haven't played any games yet on this map either, but I can imagine it's still going to be relatively legible as a player. Definitely a little bit darker though, what we normally see. Anyhow, Mutilating Bane right here from Scarlett. 111 is eventually finished up here as well for ByuN. What are those blue things going around? Yeah, I saw that as well when the proxy was going on over here. There's like a little bit of blue glow. Interesting. I think it's supposed to be like an effect right here from that like ravine or something here at the bottom of the map, but not sure if I like it. Just a little bit confusing. Anyway, sometimes map makers get a little bit carried away with the decorations. And if it goes at the cost of playability, that's obviously, yeah, when you take it one step too far. But this definitely seems very good. Mutas are going to soon be out as well, so I don't think that these Banshees are going to be able to get too much work in. Nice micro here by Scarlett. Yeah, very nicely done. Both of these players, by the way, are playing for the Shopify Rebellion. So I wouldn't be surprised if they regularly practice against each other. Even though they're, well, located on opposite end of the world, it's still not uncommon to practice with your teammates. So there's probably going to be some mind games going on as well in this series. Usually when maps are first added to StarCraft 2, the first few weeks, games are going to be rather cheesy. Pro players don't really care about giving us exciting games to, you know, watch. They're just here to win. I know, crazy. They don't even do it for us. Most of them anyways are not really here for the fanciness. They just want to try and win. So if they find like abusable locations, like for example, well, I guess that wasn't necessarily the most abusable location, but those couple of proxy wrecks, it's definitely something you can expect to see quite frequently until players adjust. So far though, really liking the way that Scarlett is playing this. She didn't really run into a whole lot of issues here early on with the proxy wrecks. And now she's got full map control with the Mutalisks while dealing quite a bit of damage. ByuN right there, not prepared for the Mutas. So that's one of those things you also have to keep in mind. On a map like Glittering Ashes or Curious Minds, you know the timing at which those missile turrets have to come up and when you need to start positioning units in the main base and all that. You can really, nail that over the course of several months. At this point, it's still going to be a bit of a guessing game. So certain players will usually be better at that. Personally, I kind of suck at being a flexible player. I know that very well. It's not where I shine. I'm pretty good usually if I can practice a game over and over and over again, but I'm definitely a bit of a grinder in that aspect. But there's a lot of players out there that are very good at playing flexibly. Like, for example, someone like Bly comes to mind. Bly is very good at, like, figuring out new map strategies right as the maps are available. Usually those players are better when the maps are first announced than when they're first here. And then over the course of time, when players learn how to play against those sort of styles, it's gonna be a little bit less successful. Anyhow, Scarlett has been happily building up her economy. So those first 4 bases indeed are relatively easy to acquire. Although it does feel like there's quite a bit of distance in between. Maybe not. Nah, never mind. It kind of feels like there's quite a bit of distance, but especially for Terran, that might be an issue. But since there's this like little, you know, this ledge over here, I think it's going to be relatively easy to acquire this as a 4th base as well. If ByuN wants to go ahead and do so, yeah. 4th CC is about halfway done. Additional production's coming up right now. 2nd factory here too. Already though, Scarlett has been happily macroing up. She's now sitting at 94 drones. And since ByuN hasn't really been able to hurt her very much here in the early game, this is going to be, yeah, forcing the Terran player into a bit of a dicey spot. When you decide to go for a proxy, obviously you do put some of your early game resources into that. And while it wasn't a complete waste, it wasn't as successful as you'd like it to be. Good follow-up right here as well from Scarlett. These traits are pretty expensive for the Zerg, but she knows that there's no 4th command center landed yet, and she's fully aware of the economy here that the Terran player has. As long as she can remax before the Terran player can move across the map again, which, you know, is going to be very difficult to do right here for ByuN. She should be A-okay, so a lot of Ling Bane production here. +2/+2 coming up as well for the Zerg player from Canada. Okay, Medevac goes down. No, never mind. Widowmine's right there helping out the Zerg a little bit too. Thor gets picked off. Beautiful control here by Scarlett, yeah. Nicely done. Is this, by the way, the high yield base? Yeah, it is. Okay, so there's a watchtower in the top left as well as in the bottom right. And there's high yield gases, or, well, I guess only a single one per base, that allow you to mine that out pretty quickly. Gonna be able to get a nice little gas boost without requiring as many drones in there. And this is one of the ways in which you can push your advantage, right? So at this point, Scarlett definitely is in a good spot. And grabbing the high yield gas and trying to take one of those relatively aggressive bases. As long as you keep the Terran player here occupied, should work out quite well. In the meantime, we have seen a transition towards a Hive 2, so Scarlett is going to go into the Ultralisk Cavern. Against Ultras, ideally you want to have either Liberators or Ghosts. And at this point, you can really tell here that ByuN hasn't had the wiggle room to make that transition towards a Ghost Academy just yet. He's still trying to defend against the Mutas and the Zerglings and the Banelings. And while Ultras aren't the strongest Zerg unit in the book, when you're stuck on mostly just like Widowmines and Marines, Ultras are actually phenomenal. So there's the Ultra Cavern, researching the chitinous plating upgrade. That's going to give it some additional armor. And as soon as that upgrade is done, Ultras are actually very scary. So some Marauders are coming up as well here for ByuN. But at this point, I don't think ByuN has a single idea about that Ultra Cavern yet, no. The last time he saw the main base of the Zerg, it was still a lair. Scarlett does need to be a little bit careful, though. Yeah, those trades aren't cheap. But as this game has been going on so far, she's been happily outmining her opponents, so taking some cost-inefficient trades. Totally okay. So these high-yield gases, they're a little bit better than, like, golden minerals. Golden minerals return 7 minerals a trip. These actually return the double amount of mineral, or the gas, I guess, per trip. So, obviously that's awesome, but you also mine it out very quickly. Okay, here we go. Once again, that Widow mine over there was really good for ByuN. Alright. That's one of the ways in which you can come back. Yep, those Widow mine hits, sometimes they work against you, but they can definitely work in your favor as well. Matter of fact, there gets sniped. But I think 7 Marines still in it. A couple Marauders over here and a Widow Mine also. In a little bit of trouble. Ultra at this point has been spotted. Would have actually liked it if she decided to hang back with that one for a little while longer. Just because of the fact that there's 4 more coming up. At this point, yeah, the Marauder production is gonna start ramping up here for ByuN. As soon as he saw that Ultra Cavern, he knows that there's gonna be a couple more. When there's smoke, there's fire. Better prepare for more of those units. You could also go for 1 Ultralisk and then go back to Ling Bane. That'd be something. Anyways, Ultra right here in the front to tank some of those planetary fortress shots. And this is the point at which the Banelings do roll forward as well. No proper retargeting here for ByuN. So that expansion will be toast. That being said, so is the Ultra. Command Center though. Number 5. It was already replaced. But Scarlett is trying to win this game just by harassing her opponent to death. 4 missile turrets inside of the main base, so quite difficult for the Zerg player to go in. One of them just got destroyed over there, but that's not enough Mutas to really go after that. Yeah, and because of this early game, ByuN is up with his back against the wall. Early game not really doing a whole lot. And at this point, he's mostly relying on the opponent to start making mistakes here, which is never a good situation to be in. Ultimately, that Terran army will be quite a bit stronger than the Zergs, but the problem is Scarlett is going to have money to, like, remake her entire army a second time. And obviously, with the production speed of the Swarm, gonna be able to get those units out nice and quickly. Okay, well, that was a really good fight right there for ByuN, though. That being said, eventually, okay, Zerg units are starting to work their way through some of this army. Not a whole lot of orbital comments available at this point for ByuN either. I don't actually know where you would take your 5th base. Like, if you want to play that... Oh my god, no. There's no energy available for a scan. So, apparently, ByuN is just going to go for a move straight towards... I think this is the 4th base of Scarlett. This is a very aggressive and very desperate move, but it might actually just work. There's creep everywhere, so you gotta be super careful when you're fighting against Banelings. Scarlett is gonna go for a counterattack right now with the units that she's got. Terran units, though, are now in a natural expansion, and this is a very, very strange move. Not one we normally see. ByuN takes care of the Banelings nest. 9 Ultras, though, are coming up. If that Thor can actually take some of those Baneling hits, that would be amazing, too, here for the Terran player. 35 drones have fallen, but now the Ultras are starting to pop. I think there's like 9 Ultras available somewhere. Terran sits on the ramp, so that is a prime opportunity for the Zerg to start dealing some splash damage. Crazy move right there from ByuN. Normally what we see is a Terran player moving across the map very methodically, right? Very slowly. Scanning their way to success just because they don't want to get all the Banelings rolled into their Terran army. But ByuN is like, okay, I don't have any scans available. I'm just gonna go. Felt very desperate, but it almost worked. I mean, still a lot of damage was done. I don't know if Scarlett has realized that she's lost the Baneling's nest. Kind of important to know that that is, you know, a thing. Alright, new hatcheries are made. ByuN is starting to run out of money, though. Yeah, I'm trying to think here where Terran would take a 5th. This right over here, or I guess right up there, but there's no base in the center. If there were minerals over here, I think that would be a prime opportunity for a 5th base. But for Terrans, you're gonna have to play a more 3 to 4 CC based approach, because going for that very slow, like that style we've seen a million times over the last couple of months, where you basically just make, like, I don't know, 15 orbital commands, you're not gonna be able to make that work over here. Once again, a massive Widowmine hit, though. Dealing a lot of damage to the Mutos, but also blowing up like 10 of those Banelings. It's gonna be Pathogen Glands here as a follow-up instead, so rather than going Banelings, Scarlett decides to go Infestors. Alright. ByuN has actually done a lot of damage. Like that little move out just now, yeah, killed 40 drones. Or maybe not 40 drones in total with that one move out, but definitely a lot of damage is being done. Muta's over here not paying attention to that moving medevac. ByuN outpacing the opponent here for a little bit. That blue effect is not cool, dude. Can we get rid of that blue effect? It's very confused. Maybe it's pretty. I don't know. What do I know? I just want to see pixels. I'd be okay if StarCraft 2 was 16-bit. 8-bit, I don't care. SCV sprites. Alright, alright, alright. So this is actually an important move. So that's the old main base of ByuN that floated on over towards the base down south. Greater Spire even coming up right now. Scarlett, I feel like she's almost getting a little too fancy here in the unit composition. This is still one fungal growth away, though, from being an absolute disaster for ByuN. ByuN doesn't have that scanning opportunity, right? So normally at this stage in the game, 18 minutes into a Terran versus Zerg, Terrans usually, at least over the last couple of months, have had like a dozen orbitals, so they can just sort of keep scanning. But I think at this point, ByuN has no idea about the Infestors. And when the Infestors suddenly pop a fungal growth in the middle of your Terran army, that's an absolute disaster. Then the Ultras can close the distance, and while Ultras... Okay, now the scan is revealed. Okay, well, the Infestors rather are revealed. When the Ultras can close the distance, they deal a lot of damage. Scarlett's got to be careful, though. You cannot chase that Terran army like this. Okay, well, there's the fungal growth. That's what you're looking for. Trying to slow down that Terran army from retreating. When the Ultras actually get into combat, they deal an absurd amount of damage. No splits right there from ByuN. So the majority of those Terran units will fall, and with that, I think the SCVs might be in some trouble over at this expansion as well. Infestors, for the most part, did stay alive. A couple of medevacs here trying to keep those units alive as well, but now the SCVs are in a little bit of trouble. CC will be forced to lift off. And while I think resource-wise that was an efficient trade right there for ByuN, Scarlett is starting to run into a much better economy here. I say that. Scarlett doesn't really have that many drones either. She didn't remake the Baneling's nest over here, so apparently Baneling cocoons, once again an opportunity. Oh, you know what? Yeah. A lot of mule energy was available, so ByuN is going to get a huge income spike here. This is actually a sick game. Like, considering this is the first game on Data C, this map looks incredibly promising. Alright, here go the Zerg units once again to the base up north. Terran's right now extremely thinly spread, I suppose, but This is really the only base that ByuN cares about. I mean, this orbital command is not even going in the right direction to try and go to safety. Hatchery down south, though, also destroyed. Fungal. Yeah, 2 medevacs, not bad whatsoever. I thought that was actually a missed fungal, but not quite. So once again, by the way, we're underwater. I didn't realize that. A lot of maps these days are underwater, apparently, where units float towards the surface instead. I always like that mechanic, but I know a lot of people that casually watch StarCraft 2 get a little bit confused as to why units are going up rather than to the ground. Anyways. This is sick. I thought ByuN was pretty much dead. Now he's grabbed the supply advantage. Okay. Missile turret is down. So if Zerg is... ooh, careful, 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 Mr. ByuN! Fungal! Oof. Almost a disaster. Okay, well, I was going to say almost a disaster. That is a disaster. Not really what you want whatsoever. Beautiful fungal growths right here from Scarlett. And that apparently is the nail in the coffin. ByuN, sadly for him, he didn't pay attention for about half a second, and that's all that Scarlett needed. I hope you brought your sunglasses. Next up, we're on Moondance, which is quite a bit brighter than the previous map, right? Colors on this map also seem to be quite a bit more intense. That is a very red. Let's have a look at the blue. Oh my god. Okay, this is like the exact opposite end of the spectrum, okay? We've got the yin and yang cast today. I think Data C may have been slightly too dark. I think Moondance might be slightly too bright. I mean, you can never make Loco happy. Apparently, I'm a very picky commentator today. No, I'm just giving you my initial impressions of, you know, what the maps actually look like. What's that? There's a big fruit right over there. Anyhow, if the Terran units ever grow hungry, they can always go scavenging on Moondance. This is a map called, this is a map made by Maris. So this is the map that has that in-base expansion. Pocket expansions is not something we frequently see in StarCraft 2 anymore. So the way that it works is that this is your main base, right? This is your natural. And then if you want to, you can take a super easy base right over here in the back. The problem is this is not a full mineral base, nor is it a full gas base. So you gotta make do with 1 less gas geyser and 2 less mineral fields, which is definitely significant, but you may very well be able to play like a super greedy build on a map like this. That's why I do like seeing one of these maps in the map pool, just because it forces a little bit of variety. We actually have 2 new maps that have this feature right now in the map pool, though. Well, the alternative version of the Pocket Expos is quite a bit different. I'm sure we'll check out some of those games in the future too. So if you aren't subscribed already, make sure to do so, so you get notified as soon as those future StarCraft 2 casts go up. Either way, ByuN apparently still happy making 2 barracks right here at the start of the game, but this time around he's building them in his own wall. So this is actually a pretty good example. I think that ByuN can probably go, since Reapers are 50 minerals and 50 gas each. You usually find out, or you find yourself with quite a bit more minerals than you normally have. You can probably go for like Reaper openers into Command Center, into another Command Center. That would actually kind of cool if that's... Oh, actually, it's a triple Rex. I didn't even see, sorry. That would actually be kind of cool if ByuN, decides to make that move. Alright. Now, against Reapers, you do definitely want to have some gas income as Zerg. Ah, no. I think I was supposed to be Scarlett posting the question mark. That is sloppy. Yeah, that is just inexperience on this map, right? That's not a mistake we'll see ByuN make again in the future. I don't think so anyways. It's gonna be a factory now as a follow-up too. At least that's what I would assume. If I were to play a game like this as Scarlett, right? So I'm Scarlett in this game and I see this wall off, I'd expect double Reaper production into triple CC or something along those lines. But, you know, not what's happening at all. At this point, Scarlett will probably realize by the timing of those additional Reapers that it needs triple Rex production. But since that very first Reaper died, Scarlett is feeling pretty happy about this all. Third hatchery here is going to be amazing too, right? Actually, sometimes in a mass Reaper opening, you do find yourself with no ability to take a third expansion as Zerg, or I guess a second expansion, a third base. I don't like that, ByuN. No. Well, the King of Reapers making some sloppy mistakes so far in this series. Where you're gonna go for a triple wreck start, you really need to get some sort of value out of it, and this really isn't happening so far. Scarlett recognizes it too. She's decided to go for a second gas geyser as well as a baneling nest. So I think with 4 overlords coming up, Scarlett is done making drones. This third hatchery is probably just here for larva generation. Yeah. No way that those Reapers are really gonna be able to scout much of anything. As long as they don't see the baneling nest, Scarlett is going to be very happy about this. So finally right now, command centers are coming up. There's the third CC2. Banshee will be a follow-up pick as well, so maybe that's for like a roach push. But honestly, against Ling Bane, having Banshees out is nice. But I think Scarlett is going to go for a full-on committed Baneling bust. And Banshees are surprisingly weak against that sort of thing, especially if you lose all of the Reapers here too. The defense is going to be extremely hard here for ByuN. All right, 11 Banelings are coming up. ByuN, completely unaware of this. He's decided to follow it up with 2 more command centers that are finally finishing up right about right now. That economical boost will be coming in, but it's not available just yet. Jimmy over here at the front, desperately running for his life. But the Zerg infestation is here, and it's a lot of trouble. Okay, yep, just bite your way through all of those supply depots. At this point, Terran will be soon to hit a supply block as well. Apparently, though, that's not what Scarlett wants to go for. Instead, she wants to go for the throat. SCVs are falling left, right, and center, and I believe that this is going to be a very quick 2-0. Well, I mean, the second game at the very least is very quick. A very nice 2-0 right here for Scarlett.